fourth graders, I'm going to go over the project portion of this week's science lesson. Remember, we're dealing with ecosystems, food chains, and food webs. So hopefully right now you're watching the video. You're going to make your own food web or food chain. You have two options and you only need to do one of the options. You can create your own drawing of a food chain or a food web. So I want you to think about what you would find on a hike, what you would find at your park, what you might even, see from your backyard. And in your drawing, by hand, you will include 2 decomposers, 2 producers, and 3 consumers. And I want you to identify the animal or label the animal, as well if it's a decomposer, producer, or consumer. Now, let's take a look at the example of the food web drawing by hand. So if we come over here to this box, you'll see the example. And it's just on a piece of paper, and I love they took the time to color it. They took the time to draw carefully. And you'll notice at the bottom there is grass, cacti, and there's a word that's called, it says producers. I know that's hard to see. And I'll see if I can just enlarge it a little. And so I want you to look at the direction of the arrows. And this was also in the vocabulary video. The reason the arrow is pointing toward the animals, so if we have our grass, cacti right here, if we look at this grass right here, we see that the arrow is going toward the animals. And that is because we're looking at the transfer of energy. This producer, this grass, is giving energy to this next level. It's giving energy to these animals. So think about the way your energy moves when you're doing this project. And then we notice that from this little squirrel gopher, I'm not sure what it is, we have the arrow that goes to the rattlesnake or the snake of some kind, because again, this rodent here is giving energy to the snake. So your arrows go in the direction of the movement of energy. So just think about that when you're creating your own. So this is an example of a drawing here, and they've labeled the name of the animals, the name of the plants, and whether it's a decomposer, producer, consumer. So I'd like you to do the same on a drawing like that. Also, you might even want to talk about, on my hike to Chautauqua, or in the park at Bear Creek Elementary. So just give it a title as well. Now, if you're not excited about drawing by hand, that's okay. We have another option. You can complete a Google Draw. Now, the Google Draw has already been pre-created for you and is in Google Classroom. So then we'll open the Google Draw food web and food chains. I'm going to take out, that's an extra draw. And then you're going to follow the directions on the sheet. So let's go ahead and follow the directions. We're going to go to Google Classroom. And when I open it, it looks like this. I always skip straight to my classwork in order to find what I need. Typically, I go down on this left side to find science or whatever I'm working on and click on it. But remember, you can also just scroll to find what you need. And we are going to go to science. You've already been working on this top assignment, so you don't need to open this. This Google Draw food web or chain project goes over a lot of what I went over in this document. But let me show you what's different. So project options, do one of them. Draw your own food web or chain on paper, as we just went over, or open the Google Draw to create your own. So here, food web and food chain is the Google drawing that you want to open in order to create your own. So I'm going to click on it. And you'll notice there's some directions and some pictures are getting ready to pop up. So all of these pictures are of animals and plants that we would find in Colorado. You're going to use the pictures below to set up your food web or chain. You can drag and move them. Now, we are going to go ahead, and I think I'm going to use the line tool to create arrows to show, I'm going to change this, how the energy moves. Because that's what we just talked about, and I think that more accurately describes what we're doing here. So what I want you to do before you even think about drawing arrows, you need to set up how you think these pictures go and how you might organize them. And then you can start connecting the pictures with arrows. And remember, a food web is more complex than a food chain. So if you're doing a food web, it's going to have more arrows pointing to different plants and animals or coming from them versus a food chain where you'll have a singular path. Okay, so let's just say I've started. I'm not going to do the whole thing for you. Use the line tool to create arrows to show how the energy moves. All right. Right here next to my arrow, which is how I move these, is with my arrow. I'm going to go to my line tool. And I want arrows. So I'm going to click on the arrow line. Now, I know that a rattlesnake would eat a mouse. But think about how the energy is moving. The mouse is giving the rattlesnake energy. So I'm going to have the mouse pointing to the rattlesnake. Then I might say, oh, well, he might get energy from the toad too. So I'm going to have my toad pointing to the rattlesnake too, because that toad might give energy to the rattlesnake. So your arrows are showing how the energy moves from sort of that bottom source to the upper. Now remember, I have the sun here. I can even add the sun in, and the sun, I'm moving it. I want to go back to my arrow. I'm going to click on that, and I might be pointing that sun going to that tree because it's a producer and it can make its own energy by photosynthesis. Now, I'm just giving you an overview here of how to do this. So that's a start. When you have finished moving the pictures and labeling, or I should say, including your lines, I want you to go back and label which living things are the decomposers, producers, and consumers. I'm going to click on this handy dandy little text box here. Let me do it again. And I'm going to go next to this Plains Cottonwoods tree. I'm going to make my text box what I think it should be, and I'm going to type that it's a producer. You'll notice that the text is kind of big in comparison to the text type I used for the names of the living things. So you can change that. You can make it smaller. You can also change the color so it jumps out a little better. And then I could put that right here, that it's a producer. I might even put it underneath. And remember, you can also center this. I centered everything. So I can click here and center it. So I have my Plains Cottonwood tree and it's a producer. So fourth graders, your job is to create your own food web or own food chain using Google Draw if this is your choice. And I just went over how to use those tools. So hopefully that's helpful. Now, some of you like to do a little more because maybe you're curious about researching a really specific ecosystem within Colorado. So you have some extension options here. You can actually pick a Colorado ecosystem and learn about what animals and plants live in it. And you can either do a hand drawing or you can do your own Google Draw. but that means you would have to look for your own pictures, which isn't complicated because I can go to Insert Image from the web, and then a search comes up, and I could put, maybe I'm looking for an aspen tree, and I can type that in, and you get pictures, and you can just pull it over. It's really big, so I like to shrink them down. And then you still have your picture. I'm going to take that out for right now. So you can create your own. I've put a link in to different ecosystems we'd find in Colorado that you can look at. In the pictures, there actually are animals and plants in each ecosystem, but you, again, might want to do your own research. So you can do that. So that just adds another layer on of you learning about actual ecosystems in Colorado. So that is an extension if you choose to. If you don't, you have your two options of doing your own drawing or completing the Google Draw. Animal examples are in the vocabulary video if you're struggling to come up with animals. There are examples of decomposers, producers, and consumers in this video and in this link. So if you need to go back and if you're drawing your own, that's a place to go. I hope you have fun. We're here if you have questions. Ciao, ciao for now.